Welcome to Capital Connect, a video series where Commerce Lexington's policy team profiles issues and leaders that are impacting economic competitiveness in the greater Lex region.
Today we're going to be talking about one of the most impactful infrastructure projects in our region with nearly $500 million of investment that can really impact the economic development and growth of central and eastern Kentucky.
And that project is FutureLex, the terminal expansion project at the Bluegrass Airport. And we have with us Eric Frankl, the president and CEO of Bluegrass Airport. Eric, thanks for joining us on Capital Connect. We're glad to have you today.
Thanks for having me, and you enjoyed it. Look forward to it.
Well, we want to start by talking about the big project, so FutureLex, and some people may not know about it, but if you can share what the project is and the vision behind it, just to get us started.
Yeah, happy to. So many folks may be aware, but if you're not, we've actually begun a process that will probably take us a number of years to expand the terminal at Bluegrass Airport, and this has been an initiative that's actually been going on for a number of years. We completed a master plan in 2023 to look at the entire facility, the 1,100 acres at Bluegrass Airport, and then we focused more on just the terminal, the parking, and the roads after that, and that led us to where we are today. We knew that we had a number of capacity constraints today to accommodate the passengers and the growth that central Kentucky already has, much less than future 5, 10, and 20 years. So we knew we had to expand our terminal. And so we announced FutureLex about a month ago or so, and it's going to be a multi-phased, probably at least a $500 million project that we're excited to undertake, and we think this is transformational for the next generation for Central Kentuckians.
Well, we know there's been a lot of momentum over the last several years, and as you and I have discussed in a past life, I used to work at the Bluegrass Airport for American Airlines, so I know the ramp and everything very personally and directly. But with those factors you just stated, taking that into account, why is this the right time for such a project of this magnitude?
Yeah, I tell you, it's a little it's pretty significant for us to undertake a project of this magnitude, at this dollar amount for sure. I think what really kind of surprised us a little bit was coming out of COVID, and this was a pretty dramatic impact, obviously for the entire community, for the entire world, but specifically for aviation. So we didn't know how we were going to come out of COVID. And then by 2023 or 2024, we had bounced right back and actually had record numbers. And obviously our University of Kentucky, the Central Kentucky region, continues to grow, and our passenger activity grew with it. And so we knew that we had some challenges just from the pure volume of folks. But then the other thing that happened is the airlines changed their aircraft mix. And our airport was built traditionally with 50 and 70 seat aircraft in mind, and now we regularly have 130, 150, 166 seat aircraft. And so we had some constraints already with the terminal. We have them today. And of course, that assumes we have no growth in the next 5, 10 years. So we really feel like we need to do this sooner rather than later. And obviously it's daunting, it's concerning, obviously, that when we talk about that level of funding, but we think this is the right thing for our community and for the region.
Well, and the airport is a tremendous economic engine. It's a convenience to have an airport here in Lexington. We all enjoy that. You all also recently completed an economic impact study. Can you share more about the economic impact study and what that meaning is for Lexington, the region, and the state?
Yeah, so we're obviously proud of this, and we know we quietly go about our business to some degree, but we recently did a study, I think in 2023 or so, and it's an annual economic impact of $700 million to Central Kentucky and to the Commonwealth. We're proud of that. They estimate on any given year about 4,500 employees throughout the whole facility, so it's pretty significant. And obviously, it's in our best interest to keep that growing and to be able to accommodate that. And it's really amazing for me to think that we're doing all this in basically just a little over 1,100 acres on that facility. So it's really, really good. Not only for Lexington and Fayette County, but the entire Central Kentucky region.
So this is a multi-phase project that's going to take several years. Can you walk us through those phases and why they're sequenced the way they are?
Yes. So one of the interesting things was, it's actually from the very beginning through the master planning process and then the terminal area process. Our board has always been focused on the customer experience and the convenience of Bluegrass Airport. And we know we have some competing airports that are pretty close. And so, but one of the things that makes us different, of course, is that convenience. So the board's always focused on these improvements have to be done in a way to expand the terminal, and it's a 24/7 operation, but keep it convenient for the traveling public. So the first thing we did, as you all know, is we've expanded the parking lot, and that was the kind of an enabling project from the very beginning to relocate the road that loops in and out of the airport and then add that parking. The next thing people are going to see, and it may not be that sexy, is there's going to be a new garage, a car rental garage that has to be built, because the current car rental garage will have to be demolished to make room for what will be the second or the third phase, which is expanding a concourse in that direction. So there's a lot of projects that lead up to it that again are not very interesting, utilities and that sort of thing, but there's a number of things that I think you're going to see, but it won't impact the public. And that's what we're kind of excited about, that we think we can keep this facility operational 24/7, 365, and build this expansion, but it not impact the customer in any significant way.
Over the next few years or for the duration?
Yeah, so
this is really a decade-long project.
It is a
to
decade-long
completion.
project. We actually, and again, we'll learn more about this. Maybe we can refine this over time, but we think this could be a 10-phased project over a decade. But we're really focused on the first 3 phases, which gets us to additional gates, larger gates, more amenities for our customers, and we're excited about that. And again, some of this will be kind of impacted by funding and how much funding we can. And again, we're asking the airlines to pay a big portion of this too. So, but we're focused on those first 3 phases, and we think that'll take the next 3 to 5 years. People will see things, but they won't be impacted by them.
So we're still going to have our quick get through security, get to your flight,
Yep.
still get to the airport maybe
Exactly.
an hour
It's-
before. That's
it's
still
an-
possible.
Yeah, so we tell folks, yes, it is convenient, and they could take advantage of that to some degree. We tell them, particularly in our peak summer years and in October, or summer months, I'm sorry, in our October, don't push that too much, because if we have some TSA problem, then that could cause delays. So we really want people to get there a little bit, early, hour, 15 minutes, maybe so, but you can get away with that a little bit less sometimes.
Working ticketing for an airline, please arrive at
Exactly.
your flight an hour and a half, 2 hours before departure.
There you go. There you go.
That's our PSA for today.
Thank you.
So you mentioned just adding more of the concourses and the capacity at the airport. At the end of the day, are you hoping to get more flight options for passengers? So potentially more nonstop flights. Is the goal to add to that? And maybe what is the process to get those direct flights? I think people may not be aware how difficult it is and how competitive it is with the airlines to actually, it's almost like landing a business, getting more of those flights in place.
Yeah, so couple of good points there. First, this is really what's driving it. Right now, we have 10 gates that the airlines can use, 10 jet bridges. People are kind of visually familiar with that. And that, we, in particular in the morning push, we have more airplanes than we have gates available. So we can accommodate additional airlines right now, but it'll be very difficult. There'll be peak times where we will not be able to accommodate anymore. And that's obviously not good for the airport, not good for the region. We don't want to be the ones slowing the region's growth down and the opportunity. So we are always looking for more flights, more direct flights, and maybe an additional airline or two. But we're a little bit constrained. So we need to try to do this terminal, this concourse, as soon as we can to add those gates. Again, the other thing that sort of happened with the industry is the changing of aircraft. So we don't have those 50 and 70 seat aircraft. Now we have mainline, which of course the customers love, I love. It's going to be great, but they take up more room on the ramp and in the terminal, or leading into through the terminal as well. So that's going to be one of the areas of focus, that we try to move that along so we can accommodate more airlines. That said, I think we have really, really good air service for a population, a region our size. And one of the things that we focus on, and I know we've talked with you all about this, is of course we're Lexingtonians, so we're focused on where we want to go. But what's really important is how people get to Lexington and Central Kentucky and the Commonwealth. And being able to get to Lexington and with one stop at 389 destinations is hugely important for economic impact and growth for our community and the Commonwealth. So again, while we want to certainly accommodate the people, our citizens in Central Kentucky, we're also focused on what that experience is for people coming to Central Kentucky.
Is there a destination that you have in mind in terms of whether it's going outward or a flight coming inward that you would like to see that would be on your wish list?
So it's not so much my wish list as much as it is our communities, I would say. I mean, our community, of course, the business community has their goals and objectives. This is a little challenging, though, to try to find the right airline that has the right strategy, that has the right aircraft going to the right destination at the right time of day. And that's really a challenge for us. And what happens, again, we're try to be thoughtful about this because we don't want to create a situation where we have too much competition to one region and then neither of those airlines are profitable. So we talk with all the airlines every year, a number of times throughout the year, and of course our existing airlines too, to try to find that right niche. We would probably still love to have more West Coast direct flights if it was possible, but right now it takes the right airplane with the right airline at the right time of day. And those are hard to find.
Well, for a project like this at nearly $500 million, we know that most of our members know that those funding sources don't all come from one place. So could you explain how you all have outlined financially how you're going to tackle this project and where those funding sources potentially are going to come from?
So the real answer is I don't know. No, we have some level of strategy. But the way this typically works in most communities our size is, and many people don't know this. We're not a part of the city. We're basically a separate entity, and we operate like private sector. So we don't receive any taxpayer dollars for our operation. There are grant opportunities available, and obviously you all are very helpful with our recent state grant that helps launch us a little bit. And there'll be some of those opportunities to help defray some of the cost. But then the airlines pick up a large portion of this through their rents and fees that they pay us. They know that. They need to have adequate facilities. We have to be sensitive to the cost because we don't want to create a situation where the costs are too high and now we killed the golden goose a little bit. So there's a fine balance there. We're going to work through that. We feel like we have a pretty good strategy for the first couple $100 million about how we think we can do this. And then we're going to have to be very thoughtful going forward.
Well, one of the big wins from this past legislative session was the General Assembly allocating funding to help with the airport terminal expansion. So huge economic win. Can you share more? I think that was nearly $25 million that's going towards this project in different ways. How those funds are going to be utilized and how much of a significant impact that was.
It was huge. And I mean, again, and most people that don't do this don't realize that this takes sort of years of development. And obviously want to certainly recognize our Senator Amanda Mays Bledsoe, but in the state legislature to begin with, but then all of us as partners in our community, Commerce Lexington was great, Visit Lex, our corporate community, everybody pulled together to have this as a priority because it's important to our region. And I think everybody understood it was important. And so that collaboration is significant. And I think our community really pulled together, not just for the airport, but for a number of initiatives that we thought were good for the community in the region. We're glad to be a part of that, and we want to be partners with other folks. We had a lot of support for this grant that we received, and this is going to help us launch that program. But now we want to definitely do our part and be partners for other folks that benefit the community as well. So this was a really, really good first step and really important because it helps us launch the process. And yes, we're going to have to figure out funding strategies for a lot of different areas, but this really helps us get the ball rolling.
Yeah, and we hear that a lot from when we are talking to policymakers at all levels of government, that they want to see more collaboration, more regional collaboration on big projects like these, whether it's economic development or infrastructure. So you taking a lead on that and highlighting how important that is, I think is key for a lot of our members to hear.
Well, and again, credit due to Commerce Lexington and the whole concept of regionalism, but it's never more important than the airport specifically.
Yeah.
We serve depending how you look at it, a 30 to 40 county region, and it's the same region that you all are collaborating with on a regular basis. So these are our partners. These are our communities. That's not just the collar counties, but the other counties that go east and south for us too. And again, it is about regionalism. And I think that's really a credit to our community that we've gotten past those sensitivities about who gets what and how that works, because we're all in this together and we can all benefit one another.
That's exactly right. Well, one of the other important components to advocacy is the federal level. We're getting ready, Commerce Lexington is getting ready to take a group of business leaders to Washington, D.C. at the end of July. This will be the airport terminal expansion. Moving that FAA tower to enable the project to move forward is going to be a top priority for us. Can you share more, Eric, at the federal level, how that advocacy is important, the investments that they also make in the airport, and some of the policy priorities that are important to you all in the year ahead?
Yeah, that's a great point, and it's kind of a complicating factor for us. For those that are familiar with the airport, the air traffic control tower is literally right outside the airport in what we call, our Boardwalk and Park Place location.
Is that unique in airports across the country?
I mean, again, the tower was built in 1970, the terminal was built in 1976, and at that time probably made sense based on the type of aircraft and the runway configuration and that sort of thing, but we would never do that by today's standards. Unfortunately, that is the only facility that the airport doesn't control. The federal government built it, owns it, and operates that facility, so we need our federal legislators. And I tell you what, we've gotten great support from Senator McConnell and Congressman Barr for what we're trying to do. And they understand. They understand this is not a wish list thing. This is really important for the development of Bluegrass Airport, but then in turn for our entire region. So they've been tremendous to work with. Senator McConnell helped us get a grant for the first phase of what we need to do to relocate that tower, and we're going to be working on that throughout the summer and obviously the next several years, and then we'll try to pick at it a little bit and get to the next phase. Fortunately for us, we can start this terminal development plan with the tower in its current location, but ultimately it needs to relocate because we will need that area.
So beyond the tower relocation, the FAA's airport improvement program is also a key factor, not just to you all, but some of our other regional airports that we have in the area. Can you explain some of how that works and how it helps out? Yeah,
so the FAA does have a grant program that most airports all airports can apply for. The airports our size, Louisville, Northern Kentucky, we receive a certain amount of funding based on the number of passengers that flow through that terminal. And then we can compete for other grants, as some of the smaller airports, they can compete for FAA grants too, which we intend to do. And that, it's been a program around since the 80s, I'd say. And it helps to some degree. It won't solve all of our challenges, and not, everything has strings attached, and there's things that are eligible and not eligible. But it will help us, and it'll be one tool in our toolbox that we intend to use.
Well, speaking of tools, looking ahead, this project is important. Are there other things that, whether it's the business community or local, state, or federal government, other policy tools that we need to be thinking about to better support the airport as an economic engine, as a key employer? Are there other things that other cities or regions are doing to support their airports that we should be thinking about from an advocacy perspective?
Great question. I think, first of all, I'm grateful for the support that we've already received from our partners in the community already. And I think your focus on the tower has been very important because, again, it's not just an airport issue. It's a community issue, and it's going to impact the community if we can't get it relocated. Fortunately, we've had great success, again, with our legislators, federal legislators, that they understand that. That's been very helpful, and I think that's going to be one of our focuses. We're going to have to stay on that to keep that process rolling. But we got a great start. Actually, again, the state legislature, we have $5 million from them to get to the next phase of design. But remember, we're relocating and designing a building we don't own. So we're trying to get the federal government to work collaboratively with us, but we're helping them fund it. So we're hoping at the end that they come up with some funds, and it'll just be a constant process. But similarly, I'm not so sure, and I don't want to seem ungrateful because we are super grateful for what the state did for us this last session. I'm not so sure that'll be our last ask, because what our challenge is going to be is to build this facility, but still keep the cost low enough that the airlines want to operate out of there. And for that to happen, we'll probably need a series of different grants, whether they're federal or state. So.
And Eric, you've mentioned constraints a few times in our conversation. The airport itself, you really don't have a lot of room to potentially expand. Sometimes people ask a question about cargo service at Bluegrass Airport, but that's unlikely. What you've got to work with is what you've got to work with. Is that a correct interpretation?
That's pretty much. And I think, it's served the community well so far. we do forecast out that they're at 5, 10, and 20-year time frame, and we can see the aircraft that are being developed that might serve Lexington, and we feel like we have the runway that can accommodate it today. We think we'll be able to accommodate it in the next 20 years. We are constrained in all 4 directions if people are familiar with the airport, particularly with the Versailles Road and the Keeneland side. But it's getting the job done for the community. As long as technology continues to improve with aircraft, we think it'll serve the community well. And we don't anticipate having to relocate at any time, in the near future for sure.
Speaking on that, when this 10-year timeline has come to a close, what do you think that our business community members will see, and what folks will see when they come into Lexington?
Well, I mean, I don't want to prejudge it too much, but we have good plans about what we think that concourse ought to look like. Not only for people to be comfortable in the size of the waiting areas, the size of the restrooms and the restaurants, but again, the technology amenities that have just changed so much since the 70s and 80s and even the 90s when this terminal was developed. And we think we want our community to be proud of it, but then we also want our community to be but to be able to welcome people to our community and that they're proud of it when they come to Lexington and they get a flavor of Lexington and what that looks like coming through that new terminal.
Are we going to have an outdoor patio?
So
you knew I was going to ask you that question.
So yeah, our employees like that idea a lot. So we're going to try to incorporate that at some point in time, sure.
Well, we like to conclude our interviews with doing more of a rapid round of questions and making them more personal to you and as a professional and as a leader in the community. You've been in the aviation industry for more than 30 years. How did you get involved in this? What brought you into the aviation profession?
Oh, well, it's like, every kid wants to be a police or firefighter, right? Or a pilot.
Or a pilot.
I was no different growing up, and I didn't have a lot of means, so the pilot thing was pretty expensive to do, and I didn't really get a chance to do it as much as I would have liked. And it ends up being, in all honesty, that I'm really not that great a pilot anyway, so it didn't matter. But what happens, of course, for a lot of us is this is our backup plan going into airport management or airline management, and we go to college for that. There's degrees, Eastern Kentucky University, great partner for us. They do have a great aviation program down there. So that's sort of how I got started. And then, it's a very, very small industry, and to move up, you got to move away. And this is my 4th airport, and that's just the kind of way it works. But you get these opportunities. There are not very many airport directors around the country. So I'm blessed. I'm certainly blessed to be an airport director, and then blessed to be in Lexington as well.
And over that time, what have been some of your proudest accomplishments in your role?
Well, there's so many things I'm really kind of proud of for our organization. I think if I had to think about one overall arching thing, is where we've kind of come from. When I came to Lexington, let's just say we had some challenges early on that we've overcome so much. We have a great governance structure. We have a great board. We have a great relationship between the staff and the board. We have great employees. I'm just blessed to have a lot of great employees I get a chance to work with every day. And so I'm sort of proud of the overall organization and the structure we've built. And I've been here 17 years, so it took some time, but I'm really, really proud of where we started from and where we are today. And then, of course, FutureLex and where we're going to go.
Well, as a leader of a big team, what is your leadership advice or that leadership motto that you live by?
Oh man, do I got to narrow it down to one, or?
You can say multiple if you want.
I think there's a couple of things that I've just learned along the way that I think are important. And one, of course, is there's no substitute for work ethic. And when I say work ethic, I actually mean effort. Giving effort every day. And it doesn't have to be physical work, but there's really no substitute. And I think this in any career field, sports, music, any business environment, that work ethic is very difficult to replace. So I wish I would have learned that at a younger age. I didn't learn that until a little bit later, but I feel like that's a really important tool. And then the other thing that I've really learned as you move up in an organization and you get an opportunity to lead an organization is the value of collaboration. And I just can't talk about that enough, because I think in this day and age, this world's complicated. Our community's complicated. We have a lot of different perspectives. We want to try to accommodate and be the right facility for everybody. And I think that's really, really challenging in these times to do that. And that happens with collaboration. Doesn't mean you can agree all the time, but maybe you can come to consensus and maybe you can move forward together. And I think that that is a special skill set that you have to develop, and it doesn't come natural necessarily for a lot of people, for sure.
That's right. We are better together. That is
There's no
what we're
question.
all about with our regional efforts and the airport, and everything that you all are doing is just a perfect example of that philosophy.
And we're happy to be part of that team. So,
Well, Eric Frankl, President and CEO of the Bluegrass Airport, appreciate you joining us today on our Capital Connect series and kind of giving us a look into FutureLex's project for
Great.
the next 10 years. So if you are interested in listening to more of our podcast series or this one, please subscribe and check us out on our YouTube page and Instagram and LinkedIn. Thanks.